Yo, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to a brand new video on the channel. Instead of today's video, we have another SpenLC session right here because we're going to be talking about whether I think prestiges were a success or a failure inside of Brawl Stars. I think the common thing here is that we won't truly know about whether this system will be a success until at least like 6 months, maybe even more, just to really gauge, like, in terms of numbers, whether we'll see the Brawl Stars dev team talk about this in a Time to Explain podcast. But at least through the community and myself, in terms of general feelings, we can talk about, you know, the good and the bad things in a good constructive process here. We don't want to be like completely flaming the game, but we also want to give them props where it is needed. So at the end, I'll give you guys as well like things I'll change about prestiges as well. Let's just run through it. So a big thank you to you guys who posted over on my community on my second channel, who gave a lot of suggestions, and it did really help me put out a lot of points for this video. So start off with successes then. So with prestiges, I'll give you guys my first thoughts on prestiges. So when they first came out, I thought they were going to be really exciting. I think a lot of the hype for me only died because of a lot of the exploits, which I can go into in a little bit later on. And I think most of those exploits have been fixed, but it was just very frustrating to see like lower trophy accounts get prestige free. But then I kind of realized, like, okay, well, a lot of these prestiges aren't just meant for, you know, the 0.111%. I'm just going to accept that ladder is just never really going to be that serious ever again. But anyways, it was a pretty good success. I was playing a lot of ladder for about 2-3 weeks. I've seen like so many people, so many old grinders in terms of trophy pushers return to the game because the game felt fresh and felt really fun. And I'm still seeing quite a lot of those, you know, veteran OG players. They are playing a lot more ladder because, again, it feels more exciting. Prestiges are pretty cool. It is very grindy. You know, that can work in both ways. Like I did ask specifically as well for more things to grind for inside of Brawl Stars. But then even myself, I've been burnt out as of recently in terms of trophy pushing. But yeah, like I said, when it first came out, I played it so much. I literally pushed like 30k trophies in 2-3 weeks, which is actually a lot for me because, again, I just haven't played ladder for years because of how just boring it's felt. So yeah, definitely felt really nice and fresh. But whether that will continue till the latter stages of this year, we'll talk about it. So let's see what the community thinks about it then. So Piggy looked cool. He said that there's so much trophies to grind for now that even if you only play brawlers that you like, it's still not at a point where you're scared of losing trophies on them. So I'm seeing positives and negatives about this. Some people, you know, the average player that is pushing from around 1,000 to 2,000 trophies, you know, they're spending quite a long time, especially if your win rate's not anything crazy. You know, if you're especially playing with randoms, it will take a little bit longer to get you to 2k trophies. And that's where, again, we'll talk about that a little bit later, where there starts to be a little bit of aggravation in terms of the community. But yeah, when you're first playing a brawler that you really like, you can play that brawler for a very long time without having to feel too stressed. You know, Prestige 1, Prestige 2 is just so chill, guys. It is very chill. If you're just playing a brawler that you have fun with, you won't get bored because you're just going to be playing a lot of easy matches. You know, you've got win streaks as well, and matchmaking is really fast. It's not harsh. You're not really facing too sweaty of games until, again, reach Prestige 2. So I really like this about prestiges. This should definitely, not every single game needs to be absolutely sweaty. That's what ranked is supposed to be there for, right? The next point is from Ishi. So overall, Ishi said, I think it is a success. Much more people are excited to play ladder. Rewards are enough. So again, I really like the feedback from you guys about this because my general feeling, and especially people that I talk to, is going to be a lot more different to what other people think. Because again, the people I talk to, they're not like pro players, semi-pro players. And again, the majority of players aren't going to be at the 0.1%. So it's nice to see that people are definitely enjoying it. Again, when I go through my friends list, I'm still seeing a lot more people than I used to play ladder, which is pretty nice. And again, as long as people are excited to play ladder, I'm cool with that because not everyone, you know, wants to play ranked. Not everyone wants to play showdown, etc. So the next one that I really like, which nobody pointed out too much from my community tab, is that trophy rush, and also just in general, like the chaos drops and all of these other drops, PowerPoint rush, especially trophy rush in particular, I think is a really great thing that they've added. Because especially with the people that are low trophies, they can just quickly grind on their brawler to catch up, because that's probably the most I would say frustrating thing I think for a lot of people is that, you know, you've got a low trophy brawler. Some people find it fun, but most people are just like, Oh, that's just going to take forever to push up. But with Trophy Rush, you can really rack up a lot of trophies quickly. Like, you can easily, within that short period of time, just grind like 500 trophies. I'm not even joking. But it's so good. So I really like that Trophy Rush element. It's actually added like a reason to grind for ladder. You know, say if there's a day where you just don't feel like playing Brawl Stars, but you log on, but there's Trophy Rush. You kind of feel like you have to play Trophy Rush because it is such a good feature. It's like, okay, I'm forced to play ladder now. Let's hit up my friends, you know, let's try and get as many wins as possible. So yeah, really like that feature. And next up, I have a lot of people expressed that it has been really fun pushing up to power to Prestige 2, but then they shared frustration afterwards. So a lot of these frustrations are either that, like, but most of the frustrations, but I'll go into the failures later on, but most of it's to do with matchmaking. But it's still nice, again, that a lot of people are really enjoying it up to Prestige 2. Again, I had a lot of people saying they actually really enjoyed it, which, again, typically when I'm asking for like feedback in terms of how features are landing, typically you always get a lot of resistance, a lot of pushback. So it's actually quite surprising in a way that we're getting a lot of positive feedback about trophy pushing up to Prestige 2. The next point, I've got a couple more points about success and we'll go into failures. So Prestige 3 feels like a nice achievement, but even still then, it was tainted by bugs with matchmaking. The animations are slick, the icons look really cool, and the titles pop. So yeah, really good job there. That's what point I just put myself there. So again, kind of leaning onto that point is I still think to this day, even if my image is a little bit tainted, not completely ruined, but even when I like click on a profile, for example, I do feel the aura of Prestige 3. Me personally, I think I see that nice golden icon. I think, okay, Prestige 3s look elite, to be honest, when you see it on the profile, when you see it in game. And anyway, when you like load into a match, for example, you see a person's got Prestige 3. Again, that might, as the year goes on, as months go on, that might feel less and less, I don't know, less exciting or just less aura. I mean, that's how trophy systems always gone in the past, right? Like before in the past, rank 35 used to be aura, then as time goes on, it dies down. But for now, you know, it's a great feature. You can't just not say that Prestige 3 isn't like cool to look at, and especially with how when you go from Prestige 1 to Prestige 2, you reach Prestige 2 for the first time. It's just like a really cool animation. You know, it goes to your profile. You can see that it literally levels up your brawler to the next Prestige. I really like that feature. Again, after even speaking to my wife Lana, she really loves even going from Prestige, well, no Prestige to Prestige 1. It's just a nice feeling. The point I wanted to mention in terms of success is that matchmaking definitely kicks in after Prestige 2s, which I think is a good success. So the matchmaking with players who you face off against, again, definitely facing off against much better players. Whether you're queuing up with randoms is kind of normally a separate pool, but I've been noticing when you queue with randoms, a lot of the time it tries to match you up against other randoms. But it also, when you're playing with a team, most of the time you are facing off against some at least decent or competent players, which from Prestige 1 to Prestige 2, there's not a lot of competence there, in my opinion. So that's actually a good thing. I wanted there to be at least a little bit of like pushback when you're playing ladder, right? Before in the past, for years and years and years, even like I'm thinking like 2020, 2021, when I used to push trophies, then there wasn't really a lot of pushback in terms of like playing for rank 35s. A lot of the time, you know, there was a few hard games, but most of the time I'll just get put with randoms. It'll just be easy. It was just more of a time sink. Again, I'm saying that as a 0.1%, but still, I felt like there should have been at least a little bit of like MMR, at least a little bit of, I don't know, you're facing off against other teams that are on a decent win streak kind of thing. So at least it feels like a bit of an achievement to get to Prestige 3. So there are, again, like failures and successes behind the matchmaking, but then leading on to the failure of this is that when you are playing with randoms, for example, the MMR just feels all over the place. Again, we'll go deep dive into that a little bit later, but it feels all over the place. When I'm playing, for example, I'll give you guys my perspective. I'm 130k trophies, right? I've been pushing Damien with randoms. Well, I haven't for last week, but I pushed him when he was completely broken from Prestige 2, 0 trophies, up until Prestige, well, no, not Prestige 3 yet, but I'm at like 700 trophies. Sometimes it would feel really nice. Like I'll be having some decent players on my team, but most of the time I check the trophies on my team, and you know, sometimes they have like 20k trophies, sometimes 30k. And I'm at Prestige 2. I feel like Prestige 2 should be where things start getting a little bit sweatier, but I'm just getting the absolute worst teammates ever. And I was just led to believe, especially with the Brawl talk and just overall just a common consensus, was that with MMR, you know, you hear the word MMR and you think, okay, well, MMR, this is going to be like really sweaty. Every account having like some kind of, you guys don't know what MMR is. It's basically like a hidden kind of rank, it essentially is what it is. You've got some hidden elo. So although, let's just give an example, although, you know, this person's Crow is 2,000 trophies, you know, his overall account trophies is like 20k. His MMR is probably pretty low in comparison to my MMR, you know, 130k trophies. And, you know, I don't know, I've been playing the game for a very long time. I've got really high 3 versus 3 wins, maybe a higher win rate. I don't know what goes into the MMR algorithm, but I think there needs to be some changes. I know this is like a new algorithm, and I know that they're probably tweaking things as it goes along, but it still feels like there's a lot missing. Now let's move on to the failures of prestiges. So there's always going to be some kickbacks with prestiges. There's always going to be some things that they missed out on, and the biggest thing here is that hopefully they can take a lot of his feedback. You know, I don't know whether Supercell employees watch these types of videos, but if they do, at least if they're like looking at these failures, at least we can turn these failures into positive things. That is my hope with this video. So the first failure that I looked at, Nokia user over on my YouTube, it said they were fun at the beginning, but once I pushed some brawlers to Prestige 2, I realized how the matchmaking sucks. At that point, it's not fair at all. And that is by far the biggest problem that I saw with prestiges in general. After again looking at my community, after looking, I don't know, for months in terms of how people are feeling about prestiges, everybody's complaining about matchmaking. Yes, matchmaking has always been an issue. Matchmaking will always be an issue no matter what game you are. You're always going to be raging at, you know, people underperforming on your team. You have it with every single game, I'm telling you guys. You know, League of Legends, Valorant, Call of Duty, literally any type of team game, you're always going to have that pushback. So that's why I never understand why people get angry at me for getting angry at my randoms on my streams, by the way, because it's just a thing that always happens. Like, you'd be lying if you didn't say you were never like mad at your randoms. You know, if your random is your friend, you know, you're probably not actually going to get that mad because friend, right? But most of the time, randoms, you're going to get pretty mad. But a lot of people are saying that the Brawl Stars matchmaking is just way worse than other games. Again, I don't know whether this is like a hyperbole. I don't know whether people are exaggerating, but I get the feeling as well, sometimes it can be really, really dodgy. And again, I was expecting with MMR to a lot of these things to have been cleaned up, to feel much nicer. You know, you want to be matched with someone to like a similar skill level. I think a few people have accused Brawl Stars, but what they've been trying to do with matchmaking is that they'll put like a few lower level players in your lobby, so then you can carry them to a higher level. I don't know, there's like all sorts of theories going around, but I think the common theory here is that you just want somebody with a similar level to you. You know, you don't want to feel like you're just having to carry the heck out of people over and over again. You just want some competent players. That's what people are asking for. I mean, maybe, you know, maybe it's actually working correctly and everyone just sucks. Maybe that's the thing. I mean, I have said that Brawl Stars randoms are just absolutely abhorrent. We don't know what they're doing most of the time, but hey, maybe you've got to look in the mirror, guys. I mean, even myself, I make a ton of mistakes right on stream. But yeah, it's definitely clear that there needs to be matchmaking improvements. You know, we're not just seeing things, we're not hallucinating. There definitely is some problems with matchmaking, which I hope they can fix, because again, matchmaking's always been a thing that people are complaining about on social media. There's just got to be some better algorithms behind it. Again, I don't know how hard this is to do, but this is one thing that Supercell really need to fix, because people just get angry. You know, if you don't have a good matchmaking experience, you're just going to end up, you know, quitting the game for the day, or, you know, sometimes people might not even come back because of how unfair matchmaking is. Anyways, the next big failure. So a lot of people, again, have been pretty angry at this. So when you think about it, the people that comment on my community posts, a lot of these players are like considered hardcore because they're the ones that watch YouTube videos on it. You know, majority of players just don't even engage in that type of thing, from what I've learned through the podcast. But still, a lot of the hardcore, you know, even the casual players, I think would be very frustrated. Even like the newbies, most of the time would be frustrated when you face off against bots. So this has been like a new phenomenon across gaming, like with bot matches being introduced, and I don't know why on earth this has been a thing. I know in terms of the stats, and I think this is too data-led, and I think this is one thing that game companies across the world have really lost touch on, and they think that bot matches is a good idea. Bot matches just aren't a good idea. Maybe if you lose like 10 in a row or something, you know, for little Timmy on 200 trophies, that might be good, but I think there should be a point when you get across even 500 trophies on a brawler, 700 trophies on a brawler, there should be like no bot matches. I don't know why bot matches are a thing. This isn't even just me, this is you guys. You guys have shared this way more passionately than me, so I'll go through the comments. So bot matches above 1k when you lose a few games shouldn't be a thing. A lot of people are saying from 1k trophies to 2k trophies, they'll lose 1, 2, even 3 games. Most of the time people are saying 2 or 3 games, and they'll get bots the next game. That's just not a fun experience. When you face off against bots, I think that's actually more, like, it actually angers people more than like, okay, oh, like, people don't think, oh, bots, it's a free game, wow, I get trophies. No, people are like, oh, wow, the game thinks I'm that ass. The game thinks I'm that bad that I have to face off against bots. And all it is just a longer time sink. You're like, okay, well, I've just run through, I'll have to get through this bot match, let's get through to the next game. So I don't think it actually adds to the experience. Again, I would like to hear the reasoning on this. Of course, again, it is data driven. There's obviously facts behind it about how people are probably more inclined to play more of the game because, you know, they get a win, you know, that increases their dopamine. I don't know, but me personally, it works the opposite. It actually works the opposite. It leads to more frustration than actually anything else. You know, if I'm just losing games against you know, if I'm losing games over and over again, maybe it should put me in easier matchmaking. That would maybe be a thing, right? Against other people that are also on a lost streak. But don't put me against bots. Please don't put me against bots. So yeah, a lot of people are complaining about it way more frequently than before the update, which again is concerning because I got the impression that with MMR, things would be a little bit sweatier or a little bit more fairer, but facing off against bots is just not fair. So yeah, I had to really rant about that because I can see your guys' frustration, so I'm hoping that I've done you guys justice there. Maybe, again, I'm speaking about bots a little bit differently than you guys perceive it. I don't know. I guess I think you guys share the same frustration that I'm letting out here. Anyways, the next point here, which is one of my biggest problems with prestiges or just ladder in general. And this has been a thing that people complain about all of the time, right? Like, I think with the meta, there'll always be strong brawlers. It's just how it is, especially in a game like Brawl Stars. The same. I don't play League of Legends, but I guess there's overpowered characters there. There's probably overpowered characters in Valorant, in Marvel Rivals, etc. But in Brawl Stars in general, when you're playing ladder, you can't hide away from the meta, and that is the thing that has actually led me away from ladder, rather than the actual like prestige, the grind system. Me personally, the meta has actually made it where I don't want to play ladder. So that is a big thing that they've been looking at, and that they're saying they're trying to, you know, implement balance changes, you know, every month. I would even like balance changes a little bit earlier. Like, we don't have to talk about, you know, some big batches of balance changes every couple of weeks. I wouldn't want that. That would actually just be too chaotic. But I think for the really OP brawlers, they definitely need toning down faster. It's not even a fact about how, you know, sometimes they like to look at data, they like to see the bigger picture, whether over time, you know, people learn how to counter a brawler. Sometimes a brawler is just not counterable, especially in a ladder setting. So let me just give you guys a few examples on that. We've got, for like right now, Damien, yes, there are counters, but it's the fact that still once you get your super with Damien, you jump onto somebody, you can create chain reaction, you just kill people pretty easily. The only way that I've been finding Damien uncountable is in ranked, for example, where I faced off against like a Clancy, a Charlie, and a Chester. Of course, even when a brawler is so broken, I'm going to struggle against that type of composition. But you're not going to face that composition in ladder, right? It's very, very, very rare that you face 3 of your biggest counters. So yeah, Damien on release was one of the most broken things of all time. Damien is still entirely like so frustrating to face off against. But it feels like every meta there's these insufferable brawlers. Like, they're actually so toxic that it just makes you not want to play the game. Again, maybe you guys are the people that like abusing a meta. I've never been one that really likes abusing a meta. I just think it's just pretty boring, like just playing. Like, I just want to play the brawlers that I enjoy playing the most, or I'm good with the most. I don't want to just, you know, pick Damien and just constantly just win every single game. You know, that novelty wears off quickly with someone like me. Again, maybe for little Timmy, he actually thinks playing the break, like, I think that might actually be one reason why they keep brawlers so strong. Again, we hear this thing constantly with new brawlers, is that they don't want to make a brawler too weak because they don't have another situation like Willow where the brawler just never regains popularity. But at the same time, do we just want a meta for especially like 3-4 weeks where it's just Damien over and over again? I think that can taint a brawler as well, you know. Think of Larry and Laurie. I don't see a lot of Larry and Laurie mains out there. Is there even one in the comment section? That is probably because people couldn't really love the brawler because they were just so broken. And I feel like that's the same with Damien, because I really like Damien's lore. I really like how they presented him. You know, you've got the really cool music video with the, I don't know what the song was called, Hypercharge. I really love the lobby music as well. I think I would have loved Damien if he wasn't abhorrently broken. So yeah, that's just me. So I'm kind of forced to not play ladder because there's just Damien every single game. It just leads to more frustration. I would just rather play ranked, even though ranked has its own problem right now with hackers. That's just how bad it is, right? I would rather face off against hackers than face off against Damien. I would rather, you know, have the ability to just ban Damien, and yeah, most of my annoyance is just gone because I can have that safety net with ranked. So again, I don't know how they fix this in the future. Again, like, people are always complaining about metas, but you know, we had Nadia, who was really strong on release. We had Prime BB with her hypercharges and Buffy. We had Bull with all of his broken stuff, you know, Sirius. So there'll always be really strong brawlers in the meta, but I'm just hoping that as time goes on, they just make emergency changes a lot quicker. So again, we don't need to look at the data. I think maybe even speaking to creators, speaking to pro players, you know, how strong these brawlers feel, you know, just even giving them like a couple of nerfs every couple of weeks, even like that would feel great. Like Damien right now, the problem with Damien is not even pro play, because pro players, so with balance changes, if you guys didn't know, sometimes they don't like putting out balance changes too frequently because it messes with the pro schedule, which I really like, because in previous years, what they'd do, they'd release balance changes and then a couple of days time, it was a monthly finals, or a couple of days time, it was a monthly qualifier. I like how they've changed the scheduling to try and match, you know, esports, because it is very important for esports players for balance changes to be not all over the place. But at the same time, you know, Damien isn't in esports for Brawl Cup, and it's only going to be, I don't even know if it's for the next qualifiers. It should be in the next qualifiers in a month's time. So that's the perfect time to just, I don't know, throw in some balance changes for Damien, right? It's quite clear that he's the most broken brawler in the game right now. Why haven't we seen more nerfs to Damien? So, yeah, that does lead a big question to be answered. I do know that, well, I don't know for a fact, but they are looking at making some adjustments for a lot of the bugs that are in the game right now, and they're hoping to get a lot of these fixed before Brawl Cup, I imagine. So maybe we can sneak in a Damien nerf or something like that. But anyways, I just want to share my frustrations on the overall meta, because that's personally a big annoyance for me in ladder. Again, I might be on my own about this, but I just can't get over that fact. Right, next point, we have again a matchmaking point. Matchmaking is extremely unpredictable and unbalanced. It's easier for new accounts to push higher. So there's a few people that have tried to crack this theory. I've seen, I briefly watched OJ's video about Prestige 3, whether it's actually just fake or whatever else, but I'm still under the impression that lower trophy accounts are definitely finding it easier, because I just know that for a fact. So for example, is like I'll be playing with people with similar trophies to me, and then, you know, I'll be playing with, I know, a few friends, like, well, if you guys know Lana. I've also got a friend Jake, who are much lower in trophies than me. You know, once I play with those two in particular, my matchmaking does get easier because they're lower trophies, right? And if I play just again with high trophy players, you can definitely feel the matchmaking changes. So you just know for a fact that matchmaking is definitely easy on the lower trophy accounts. That's obviously a fact, right? But also, you go on like Twitter, and there's people that have like 20 prestige frees on a 20k trophy account. Yes, that player is good, but it's quite clear that there is some definitely exploiting going on with lower trophy, lower MMR, whatever you guys want to call it. But lower trophy accounts definitely have it easier, which should just never be a thing. There should be a point, I don't know where the sweet spot is, but there should be a point where your brawler total trophies are being taken into consideration quite heavily on MMR. That is my personal opinion, because it should be like Prestige 3 should still feel like a skill thing, right? It doesn't matter whether you're 20k, 30k, 40k. it should still feel all the same in terms of the general experience and the general grind to get there. So yeah, that is a big frustration for me. Again, it's probably some really messy algorithm, which it's going to take a long time for them to even explain to us. Maybe they never wanted to explain how the algorithm works to us because, you know, they don't have to. Yeah, that would be like leaking how their coding works and how their game is designed. But it just feels to me like that should never be a thing. It shouldn't be easier for new accounts to push to Prestige 3. Like, that just makes zero sense to me. Next up, we've got a point about trophy inflation. So trophy inflation, this is more of a long-term problem, and as time goes on, I think this is what always happens to ladder. It feels like whenever there's any type of rework, yes, like ladder reworks typically land pretty well, but we saw with the previous iteration, but as time went on, it was just more of a like, oh wow, you got this amount of trophies, does it really matter anymore? And a lot of people just, you know, a lot of people reached 1,000 trophies on a brawler, and then that was it, that was their goal complete. What happens once everyone gets, I don't know, Prestige 2 on their brawler? I mean, it's still Prestige 3, but some people will just be like, oh, I've reached Prestige 2 on most of my brawlers. Now what? Kind of thing. So, yeah, I don't think we'll have this issue for a little while, especially because there still isn't anyone that has reached Prestige 3 on every single brawler, even with players like Elox and Processlav, I think, who have been grinding, I'd say, easily 12 hours a day to get to those 300k trophies. But that's going to be a long-term issue. So, yeah, this isn't anything we've got to worry about right now, but Brawl Stars definitely need to think ahead, you know, probably like even 6 months' time, a year's time, as to what that looks like. Is there going to be anything above Prestige 4? Is there going to be a trophy reset? Again, we'll go into that a little bit, but yeah, we definitely need to look into that. So from going on from that trophy inflation point, I put maybe people will get used to it after a while, but there's a sense of trophies not really having an excitement or any value anymore. So again, the more once you get 200k trophies, you know, what even are trophies anymore? At least prestige, like at least prestiges has value in it, right? Like there's more value in the actual prestige icon itself than the trophies. So trophies just feel like a number at this point. Trophies to me used to feel exciting. You know, you hit 250 trophies on a brawler, that was very exciting. But you hit 2k trophies on a brawler, wow, it's 2k. That kind of feeling. So the last failure point that I mentioned is that all prestige is more of a time sink than anything else. So this is a great point by Splattersack, so I'll put this on the screen. But what a lot of people do kind of find is that, especially with like the low trophy account exploit and other things, is that it just feels kind of like more grinding rather than no skill. So I think this is something that I've thought about, especially when prestiges first came out, is that I just think that people have got to come to the realization that with prestiges, with ladder in general, I think they purposely don't want it to be too skill based. I think that's one thing. Like rank 35s, they weren't always skill based, especially in the first iterations. They probably were more skill based, but as time went on, I think they found that Brawl Stars popped off more when, you know, when these trophy goals were actually achievable to a lot more players. That is always a good thing, right? We want more people to be excited, you know, unlock cool things. So I think that's what they've kind of realized with prestiges as well. So yeah, as long as I don't know how to really think about this one. I don't know how to explain it, because in my mind, again, I've just came to the realization, and I've just got to accept that ladder, you know, there's gonna be cheesy ways to get prestige frees, there's gonna be exploits, there's gonna be, I don't know, someone that is way less skilled than me that's gonna get prestige free. I just need to accept it and be like, hey, well, that person's grinded a lot, they're allowed to get this achievement. So yeah, that's something that we can't hold on to for too long. Now let's move on to the final closing points then. So long term, how do I see prestiges, success or failure kind of thing? Well, one thing that is definitely they need to look at anyways in the long term is the no reset thing. So like I mentioned, with players like Elox, I know it's a very small percentage of players, but how will no trophy reset work in the future? I don't really know. This problem actually stems from, as well, you think of players that get to prestige 3 with their favorite brawlers. Like they spoke about this years ago, right, when they reworked the trophy system. Then they spoke about like trying to incentivize people to play with their brawlers more. But that's what trophy resets do, right? Once you your brawlers are pushed back, you can then play with your favorite brawler again after reaching an achievement. Whilst with prestiges, there's no reset. It's a very big risk. Some people like it, some people don't like it, and only time will tell, in my opinion, whether this will be a success. I don't have any definitive opinion on this right now, but I'm just hoping it works out. I do get the feeling, though, personally, that there needs to be some type of reset system, just literally because once you get to Prestige 3, matchmaking is going to be abhorrently long, and you can't play your favorite brawler anymore. People, it's a game at the end of the day. People just, you can't force people to play all the brawlers in the game. Brawl Stars have obviously, over the past few years, found ways to try and get people to play different brawlers, because maybe you're getting untapped potential. You might find your new next exciting brawler main. In the past, people just log on and just play Mortis and Colt. What is kind of the point of that in terms of Brawl Stars' way of looking at things? But at the end of the day, it's a game that people play this for fun. So if you can't play your favorite brawler anymore because you've reached a certain goal, people might start looking at other games. So yeah, there's something for Brawl Stars to consider. I would love to hear the positives and negatives about no trophy reset and see how Brawl Stars think about it. So yeah, it's just my feeling. So let's talk about any future changes that I want to see. I've already spoke about trophy reset, the point that I put on my document here. Currently once you reach Prestige 3, matchmaking times are long. You already said that. So there's also no incentive to leaderboard grind right now. Again, so did a few percentage, but I think this is actually a good way of creating community hype, because over years and years and years, people have loved that. Literally, that was one big reason why I actually became popular on YouTube, guys. I'm a world champion in 2019, if you guys didn't know, but that was just a way to kind of sell myself, or some good, you can't call it branding, but that's kind of like my identity. But people found my YouTube channel through grinding leaderboards. If you guys didn't know, for whatever reason, I was always, well, not always, but there's several pushes back in 2020, 2021, where I was #1 in the world. I was breaking world records. That was a big way of how I popped off on YouTube. And that's also how other trophy grinders have popped off on YouTube, because people see these people at the top of the leaderboards, and it just seems like such a cool achievement, because, these people have grinded 16 hours a day, 18 hours a day to get this trophy grind. Got people like Hyra, Equack, Elox right now, even Juan Carlos in the past. There's quite a few other examples. But is there even an incentive to push ladder right now? Like before, they could wait for the trophy reset, and then once the season resets, then the grind begins again for these ladder grinders to see who would finish #1. It wasn't like anything exciting. It wasn't anything like Clash Royale. There's always excitement around who finishes top on that leaderboard, but there was at least a little bit of, oh, this person got a world record. That was exciting for viewers on YouTube, and it has been for a long time. Right now, I don't think, maybe once Elox gets a Prestige 3, everybody will be going crazy, but I think the novelty of finishing #1, well, being #1 on the leaderboard will definitely wear off once a couple of people have reached 300k like trophies. It's just, all it literally is a number at that point. There is no way for people to even catch up, because as long as they're just playing the game more, they're going to stay at the top. So yeah, it's not a big problem for Brawl Stars, but definitely something I'm passionate about, and in terms of probably a lot of people watching might be passionate about as well. So yeah, overall, do I think prestiges are a success or a failure after all that yapping? I think actually, after looking at it, at first I was probably looking at it a little bit biased, and I wasn't gonna say it was a failure, but I was gonna say that there definitely needs to be a lot of improvements. But I'm gonna say it is definitely a success right now, but that is just short term. You definitely got to look at it at a long-term perspective and say whether it's going to be a success or failure. I don't think it's going to be a failure long-term either. I just think it will just need like another rework. But I just think that's how the trophy system is right now. I don't think there'll ever be a perfect trophy system, because there's just too many brawlers in the game right now. I think maybe in the future they'll probably go down maybe a whole account trophy system, just with like how Clash Royale works. I don't know how that would work in Brawl Stars. I don't actually know what it looks like, because everyone's kind of getting scared with how many brawlers are being released in Brawl Stars right now, in terms of ranked, in terms of how many bans you have there, in terms of people are going to have 500k trophies in a year or two's time, maybe, with the amount of brawlers being released, etc. So yeah, we'll see how it goes out long term. But I'm actually quite positive after reading all that. Again, like the big grinders and the bit like pro players and semi-pro players, they have gone back to like ranked because that's just the best way to improve and best way to learn in terms of like trying to do well in BSC. Most of my friends list are playing ranked right now, but I imagine for most of the casuals and most of the people in and around 100k, lower than 100k, people are still grinding, I presume. Again, those numbers would have definitely dropped from, you know, literally post update when it was nice, new and flashy, but people are still playing trophies and ladder from what I presume. So I've got to say it is definitely a success right now. It's definitely a success, but I'm hoping sooner rather than later they make some adjustments. That is whether I long term say whether this is a success or failure. If they don't fix matchmaking, if they don't fix a lot of these problems which I laid out and trying to go through a few of them, like for example for me personally, if they don't fix the meta a little bit quicker with the abhorrently broken brawlers, then it's just going to be another, like, I don't know, boring system to me. But if they fix matchmaking, if they fix the meta a little bit, if they fix long-term trophy inflation, I think it'll be a massive success. I think it genuinely will. And as long as they keep making like fresh changes with prestiges, with prestige 4 maybe, with just more cool, exciting features to unlock as you grind more, then I think it'll be a fine system. I really do think it'll be a good one. I've always liked the idea of prestiges, especially after playing Call of Duty my whole life. You know, prestiges have always had a cool feeling. Anyways, that's gonna be it for today's video. Way more yap than I intended, but yeah, obviously I feel really passionate about this. Let me know what you think about all of these changes in the comment section below. Let me know whether you want me to do weekly yap sessions about the biggest talking points of the community. I feel like I love these videos. I can just say what I like in my mind and then I just feel free afterwards. It's like a therapy session at this point. Okay guys, I hope you enjoyed it. Don't forget to like, comment and subscribe. Have a great weekend all, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.